Welcome to the PrepZone show, presented by Bevill State. I'm Johnathan Bentley, joined with my co-host, Zach McCullar. Zach, the season's almost over. We are down to only 6 teams remaining in our high school area here.
Well, for a lot of our teams, the season is over. We're to the first round of the playoffs now. We've had teams go home, and it's going to be the end of the road for them there. But we do 6 teams, like you said, including Dora, whose helmet we've got, because, hey, earlier in the season we had corner. We got to have both sides of the rivalries on there at one point.
This is our only region champ in the county.
That's true.
We only have 2 playoff teams in the county, and this is one of them. And the other is Oakman. We'll talk about that in a little while. But let's jump into last week's games. First, we're going to talk about Dora, which had to have 3 things happen last week, what it came down to. I think this is right. I'm not 100% because it was so confusing, the tiebreakers.
It is too confusing.
But they had to win. They had to have, of all things, Mortimer Jordan beat Fultondale,
Right,
which seems like that have nothing to do with it, but it did.
Well, it happens to do with common opponents that teams have to have a certain amount of wins. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry. It doesn't make sense to me either.
It's
just
non-region opponents' victories if they're in the same division as you, 2 up or 2 down.
Yes.
So, in other words, why would you play Winfield?
Right.
You might as well play Winston. If you're better off playing Falkville,
Right.
You know? So it penalizes teams anyway.
Yeah, this
it penalizes
is going to
this is what happened. It penalizes teams that play good teams.
Right. And
Opponents.
also, it puts a little strategy in there because pufferfish, as you call them, teams that are in soft regions and they get all those wins.
Mm-hmm.
If you could do that, that's going to help you in tiebreakers.
Yeah.
You would say, well, it's so rare to have tiebreakers. No,
But,
2 years
yeah.
in a row, let's just come down to that tiebreaker.
Yep, the same region. And the thing is, corner, if you're having all these, tiebreakers that have nothing to do with anything, why don't you have a tiebreaker that just says the team with the most wins wins a region?
Which would, because corner's 9-1, and now they're down to a 3 seed, and they've got to go to Huntsville this week.
Yeah, it's really, really not fair. I mean, you have all this arbitrary stuff, but you don't have total wins as one of the tiebreakers. So, anyway, it's good for Dora.
It is. It helps
Dora's
Dora.
a region champ 2 years in a row. Can't take that from them.
That's true.
And I think they probably were the best team.
I think at the end of the season,
yes.
at this point, I would say they're probably the best team in the region.
Yes. So Dora's first, Haleyville second, and as you said, corner is on the road. All right. So last week's game is Mortimer Jordan beat Fultondale 14-13.
Wow.
I mean, think if Fultondale had won that game,
then
it'd
the
be a
whole
different
thing's in
helmet
chaos.
here.
Yeah, the entire thing's in
Yeah.
chaos. We might have had to go. I mean, with all this, we could have had to go to Heatherville and get one of their helmets to put on there or something. This was going to be chaotic down to the very last minute.
Yeah. So 14-13. What a game. And of course, Haleyville, had they won, they would have been region champ. They lost 42-12 to an undefeated West Morgan team.
Yeah,
Yet again, penalized for playing a good team.
That's exactly right. If they were to play some softer team, it couldn't be a 0-10 team, or they wouldn't get any benefit for it. But if they were play like a 5-5, 6-6, they could have taken care of the region.
Cold Springs, for instance, would have been better off. I mean, no offense to Cold Springs, but big difference.
Right.
All right. So game I was at, corner 41, Hayden 13. Kind of like they got off slow, and then they just took off, and that was it. It was close at halftime.
It was, and they're going to need every bit of momentum they can get because they have a tough draw this week.
Yes, very tough, as we learned last year. Game you were at, Oakman 69, Meek 26.
Yeah, where did the Oakman offense come from? Because the past 2 weeks they've scored 10 points combined. They hadn't. There was at one point they hadn't scored in a game and a half. It'd been 6 quarters since they last scored, and then they're going to go out there and nearly hang 70 on Meek.
That was surprising.
I mean, they had 49 at the half. It was 49-20 at halftime, and we were thinking, "Oh my goodness, how far could this go?"
And you really don't consider Oakman. They're kind of they drive up and down the field, take up some clock. They do not score. For them to score 69 is just, that was very surprising.
Well, I mean, we had Tyler Thomas, Rick Johnson, Kaysen Dickerson, Bridger Upton, the 4-star running backs all went off and had amazing nights.
Yeah, everybody had like 100 yards, it seemed like. Another game kind of went as expected, 56. Lynn had 56, Hubbardville 33.
That's right.
Pulled away there.
Well, Hubbardville scoring 33, you might think that's alarming, but Lynn, they probably didn't play most of their starters into the second half, that sort of thing. You don't want to risk injuries.
Yeah, and that game they kind of got close, but it was never in doubt. Addison 44-6 took care of Shoals Christian. They needed that going into the playoffs.
They did. And Shoals Christian, they're going to be sticking around our area for a little bit. You'll see that later. They're going to be facing off.
That.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either. They're going to be facing off with one of our area teams. We'll get into that. Addison, though, ran over them 44-6. What a showing by the Addison offense.
Yeah. Jed Wilkins did a little bit of everything. I think he had a rushing, receiving, return to kick. I think he had 4 touchdowns in that game. So, Winston County, you got this one wrong. You picked Faultville last week. Winston County 27, Faultville only got 6.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. Winston County, they came out there, and they're going to close out their season strong. 5-5, so they break even. They're not going to have a losing season. Faultville just didn't show up, which I'm glad for Winston County getting the win. Yeah. It's a little disappointing considering that I got it wrong, but it's definitely worth it to see one of our area teams not finish with a losing record.
Exactly. Speaking of losing record, Jasper finishes 1-9, lose to Homewood 38-14. That was another tough game for Jasper.
It is. Jasper, they have a brutal schedule.
This is their non-region. They picked up Homewood. I mean, that's asking a lot.
It is.
A 6A playoff team. Carver beat Cordova. That was also a Thursday game, 38-26. So Cordova finishes, I think, 2-8.
Yeah, they're a decent 2-8 team. They've had their struggles. There have been times they haven't played well, but they're not as bad as the record would indicate.
Right. 2 teams that didn't win a game this year: Oak Grove 57, Carbon Hill 7. Barry 34, Somebody Christian 14. I was glad to see Somebody Christian at least finish the season.
Right,
that's a win. Yeah, that should count as at least one win.
That's right, it should. Moral victories, you could call it. You actually finished the season when it looked like, oh my, there's no chance that we're going to get to finish the season. No, they stuck through it. They continued, and while it's not going to show up on their ranking or their final standings at 0-10, it's an accomplishment. It's an accomplishment for sure.
I think, they actually have some positives this year, it seems like. All right, so we're going to jump into this question here about coaches of the year. I guess it's pretty obvious. It's going to be kind of hand in hand with our top teams of the year.
I believe it is.
But who do you think? Who do you have down as top coaches?
You could go with corner. You could go. There are a lot of teams that have great coaches that could qualify. Ryan Hall with his turnaround, he's definitely up there on the list. David Smothers and Addison having a great season. Mark Hastings, of course, we've come to expect this 9-1 at Lynn, but
unbelievable.
At this point, I would have to lean Ryan Hall barely.
Oh, I was going to go Campbell. We didn't even mention Chavis too.
No, we didn't.
But
we've come to expect region championships.
It's kind of that. I guess that's where I'm going with Campbell. We really didn't know he was. Exactly. I know he was from Hueytown, a big school, but man, to have corner 9-1, it's a school record.
You're probably right. He probably would deserve it, but the season didn't finish off perfectly. They're going to get overlooked, I think, by some experts, so to speak, as a 3 seed.
But Oakman, 3-7 to 7-3. It's a big turnaround year. We kind of expected it, but we're hoping for the Winfield game. Didn't turn out that great, but they bounced back last week. But there are some good coaches. Hastings just keeps winning. I mean, you put him anywhere, and within 2 years, they'll start winning.
Yeah, he's going to be in the third round.
That first year might be rough, but then he's taking off no matter where he goes. All right, so let's talk about those playoff games. The bad thing is it's supposed to rain Friday this week.
Yeah, that's not going to work out well.
First time in years.
Of course, it could work out well for some of these teams with rushing attacks. Also could not work out for teams with passing attacks. But then again, you practice in the weather too. Of course, not this season. It seems like we haven't had any rain, it feels like. All fall. We had that second week of the season. There was a little bit of a rain on Friday night. It rained in Dora. It rained in Double Springs, and it affected games.
And it did affect the games. I think Oakman, it rained the entire game, he said. And that's the game Meek lost to Hackleburg with all those mistakes. They kept fumbling. Right. So, it did play a little bit. Hopefully it won't, or maybe it'll bounce their way this time if it does rain.
I would hope.
So, Thursday, we have Oakman 7-3, a 3 seed playing the number 4 team in the state, Mars Hill.
Not fair. I say not fair. It's how it works out. But Mars Hill's 9-1, but they lost a region game. That means they're going to be the 2 seed. Oof,
that region, Lauderdale County must be incredible.
They are.
So you have 2 unbelievable teams in that region, and of course that's who Oakman gets.
Last year, they were a 4 seed. We're like, okay, maybe they'll get a favorable matchup. No, Piedmont. This year, okay, they're a 3 seed. They should most definitely get a favorable matchup.
No. They never. One year they got Fife even in 3A. Fife just came up to 3A just to play Oakman.
And
then they went back down.
It's the luck or unluck of the draw.
Ryan Hall says if you want to play the best competition, come to Oakman, and you will have it in the playoffs.
They will play the best teams in the state.
They've played Sachs and Piedmont. Oh my gosh, Piedmont went 4-6 this year.
That's shocking.
Yeah, so they'd love to play Piedmont this time.
Definitely, I bet there are a lot of teams in the state that would love to play Piedmont.
Yeah, get even time. All right, so who are we going with? I guess we're all going.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're going to have to go Mars Hill Bible with this.
All two of us.
Yeah, all two of us. It's consensus.
All right, so the next game, these are still set for Friday, and I don't know. I hope they could change. I guess
it could.
But let's play in the rain, right? So Priceville,
absolutely, it's football. It's football.
Yeah, I mean,
you got
as long as it's not lightning.
Exactly.
Priceville 4-6 at Dora 8-2.
Yeah, Dora got a good draw here with Priceville. I think Dora should run over them. It's going to be a big Dora win. Second round of the playoffs for you Bulldogs.
Yep. Again, I agree with that. I think that will not be close. Another game I don't think will be that close. Shoals Christian at Lynn.
No, that's another 1 seed versus 4 seed where the 4 seed's just happy to be in the playoffs. Lynn should also run over Shoals Christian. I think it's going to be ugly.
Yeah. 9-1 Lynn, 5-5. Shoals Christian used to be really good not that long ago, and maybe they're trending back up. But they were in the region with Meek and Addison, and they Lynn's probably better than those teams, and those teams crushed Shoals Christian.
Yeah, Lynn is going to be better than most teams you're going to find in 1A, even 2A.
They're loaded. And a game you'll be at with the radio station, Pickens County 7-3 at Addison 8-2.
This is one of the most intriguing games I've seen in our area all season long. Pickens and Addison. Of course, Pickens County is the brand of 1A football in the northern part of the state. The Tornadoes, they've got one of the most historical programs. They're going to be heading to Addison. Addison's 8-2, Pickens is 7-3. This should be an amazing football game.
Yes, and I really want to pick Addison, but it seems like every time I pick a games like this, they lose. But I see Addison winning this game because I just look at. I know Lynn is better than pretty much anybody, but they went to Pickens and drilled them, 28-6.
But then again, last year. Lynn beats Pickens. Granted, it's under different circumstances by 1 point at Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Pickens goes to the state championship game.
That's correct. They went through Meek.
They
went through
Meek and
Shoals Christian, which was an incredible team.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, this might be the time when Pickens actually starts to care.
Right.
They could just take straight off after this.
It doesn't matter if Pickens is coming in as a 4 seed. They're going to show up for the playoffs, and Addison will too. I just like Pickens in this matchup. I get the feeling that Pickens is going to win a really close one.
Yeah, I'm going to go Addison. Probably miss that, but I don't want to jinx them, but who knows. All right, so this is what a 3 seed should get. Randolph, corner, 9-1 as a 3 seed, which is unbelievable. At Randolph, 6-4, which is a 2 seed.
Yes.
So you got Oakman plays Mars Hill, and then you got corner that plays a team with barely a winning record.
But, I think Randolph is a lot better than their record indicates. And for corner, it's a road trip. It's in Huntsville. Randolph is a tough team in the playoffs. We saw that last year.
They put Dora out.
They did. They took Dora out. Not trying to remind any Dora fans of
Randolph
painful
was
memories of Randolph.
really good last year.
They are. I think Randolph is just going to get the better of corner and win closely.
I think I'm going corner. I want to jinx everybody I can, apparently. Because, man, that road trip, that's a long trip.
It is.
And, corner, they have a chance. That's
do.
all you can ask. Now, the second round will be tough for all these teams, but I'd love for at least half of these to get to the second. I really think 3 or 4 might make the second round. You have picked.
I've got Dora and Lynn at this point going into the second round.
And the last playoff team, another tough draw, Meek as your 3 seed, 6-4 at South Lamar 7-3.
This is what your 2 versus 3 is supposed to look like. 2 teams that are fairly evenly matched, though I think South Lamar's got more firepower. The South Lamar offense, I think, is better than the Meek defense. Meek got absolutely exposed defensively last week. I think South Lamar takes advantage of that, and they'll win big.
These are teams you saw the last 2 weeks.
That's right.
South Lamar against Lynn, Meek against Oakman.
South Lamar's got a lot of talent. They're an underrated team.
Yeah, they have a number 5 that's going to be really tough for Meek to stop. Boy, it got shifty. It's really good. All right, so we're both going South Lamar on that one. All right, so our last probably look at the top 5 teams this week. Did we have anything move around?
I don't reckon we did. The 5th spot basically was between Meek and Oakman last week.
Yes.
And Oakman has completely solidified that. Oakman's in my number 5. I'm assuming they're yours?
That is correct. Yes. All right, so I have Addison at 4.
And so do I. I think we're going to be consensus.
Yes.
Well,
well, go with your 3. Who's
my
3?
3 is Dora. I bet yours is corner.
It is corner. That's
See,
correct.
you're not going to – you are like the AP when it comes to AP football polls. You're not going to value head-to-head. Of course,
Well,
I'll give you this. I think right now Dora's playing better football than corner.
Yeah.
If you look at my picks, that's exactly what it says. But I got to honor head-to-head in terms of our rankings.
It should go somewhere. Well, what about Alabama, Tennessee last year?
That's true.
Alabama was always in front of them.
I will say this. That's because Tennessee's quarterback got hurt. Hendon Hooker was out.
And then that South Carolina game.
Yes. So that was circumstances that just did not work out. Yes.
Different. So we both obviously have Lynn at 1.
Of course, they've been the most dominant team from start to finish. Even their one loss was impressive against Alabama Christian. Only 10 points this year. So I think Lynn is in good position. They have the best chance of any of our teams to make it to the 3rd round.
What teams did we have in the first spot this year? Was it just
Lynn and corner? Lynn and corner. You had Dora in there.
Maybe Dora
at
early?
the very beginning.
Right.
The first, our preview rankings, you had Dora in at number 1.
But it's been corner and Lynn, and they're 1-2 now. Well, 1 and 3 for me. Yeah, I have Dora in front of them. But that was a great game. It's one of the best games I saw this year. Dora corner, with corner winning at Dora.
But then again, it's not. I say it's not much of a road trip. Technically, it is, but
they're both in Dora.
Exactly,
actually.
they're both technically
they're
in
both
Dora.
in Dora.
It's the battle for Dora, and for the second year in a row, corner gets to rule the city.
Yep. So, would you rather have that win or the region championship?
The region championship.
Yeah, I'm sure corner would do that too.
I mean, rivalries are great, but it didn't help corner out this year any.
No, it did not. Yeah. And they had a great, unbelievable season. Still could keep it going.
Right.
So they have already they've tied the school record for wins, 9 in a year. Let's just get to 10 and set that record too while you're at it. All right, so jump to Alabama and Auburn here, jump to some college football. You were at the Alabama game.
I was.
Didn't even lose your voice, I don't think?
Slightly. It came back that night. I didn't. See, it wasn't as down to the wire.
No, it wasn't.
Because when Jaden Daniels got absolutely flattened like a pancake and knocked out of the game.
It's a dirty hit.
It was, but hey, at least.
Hey, it's a legal hit. I mean, he got a penalty.
He got a flag, and that's all it is.
Exactly.
That's all it's for.
And boy, he got leveled, like you said. So Alabama wins again. Now, do you still kind of feel like they're, the podcasts I watch, they don't really mention Alabama until later.
Yeah, I'll see articles that are talking about our playoff contenders. Alabama does not get mentioned until the 4th or 5th paragraph.
They've got to like this, really.
I'm sure Nick Saban does. Spot. He's using this as rat poison. And we were talking about it before we went on the air. If everything goes chalk, all your favorites win, Alabama still might not make the playoffs, even if the Tide wins out. They still might not, because Texas would get in over them if Texas wins out. That's going to be a very tricky situation. But I say everything going chalk, there's no chance that happens.
Well, I mean,
chaos is going to fall.
You think even if they beat Georgia, they can't make it? They won't make it?
It depends.
Surely that will jump them.
Let's say
into the
Washington, Florida State, and Georgia went out, and then the Ohio State, Michigan winner wins out. They're all 13-0. But if Alabama beats Georgia, well, that knocks Georgia out. Alabama's at 12-1. Texas, however, would be winning out if everything went chalk. It's so confusing.
Yeah.
But
you know what, though? Something's going to happen.
Something will.
Do you remember that year Iowa State beat somebody, and that kind of put Alabama in it? Maybe it was the year they beat Notre Dame. And I just remember once that team was knocked out, I can't remember who it was. When that team was knocked out, it showed Tuscaloosa, and people were going berserk.
Was it Baylor that they knocked out? I mean, it's 2012. I don't remember anything about that year, but was it Baylor?
It was somebody like that. Well, whoever, Iowa State, or they're in the same conference. It could have been
both in the Big 12.
But I just remember they knew they were going to win it.
Oh, yes.
After that, once they knew all they needed was a chance, and once they got in there, they were going to win it, and of course they did.
2017, remember, I'll say chaos happened. Wisconsin gets beat by Ohio State, I think it was. In the conference championship game, Ohio State was 2-loss. Wisconsin was undefeated. So Wisconsin's out of the way. Alabama moves in, and they go win the national championship despite losing to Auburn.
Yep, that's right.
In 2017, I think I would trade the Iron Bowl for a national championship.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, you can win an Iron Bowl next year.
Right.
But so what do you think? Is this coming down? This is coming down to the Alabama-Georgia game.
It is.
Right?
It's going to be. Right now,
barring crazy stuff happening.
That's right. At this point, Alabama beats Kentucky. Crimson Tide is in. Georgia beats Kentucky. The Bulldogs are sorry, Ole Miss. Georgia beats Ole Miss, and then the Bulldogs are in. Then it's Bama, Georgia. It's guaranteed.
Again.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. For hopefully, at that point, a playoff spot.
Right.
Hopefully somebody gets knocked off between now and then.
I would hope.
I think that'll happen. So, what do you think about Kentucky this week? I know you're going to pick that later, but...
Right, but Kentucky, they just don't show much. They don't bring much. It seems like a team that Alabama's either going to match up perfectly against, or it's going to be a grind-them-out, low-scoring game. But Kentucky, they just don't impress me. I've watched them play against Georgia in the most overrated game of the season in terms of people were thinking Kentucky might pull the upset, and it wound up being 51-13. Then Kentucky played Tennessee, and Tennessee won by 6.
It's like Kentucky beats the teams they're supposed to and loses to teams that are better than them. There's not a whole lot of upsets there. All right, did you get a chance to watch the Auburn game?
I did not. I was busy standing out in line for an hour waiting on the gates to open at Bradley Stadium. I'm not going to sit myself down just as the ball's in the air like you.
Yes, that's where we differ. I want to get into the stadium and sit down. Well, I like to get to Auburn a little early to watch the
Eagle fly over. I understand that.
Course. But Alabama, I want to sit as the ball's in the air, and
but you're not an Alabama fan. That's true. You're not an Alabama fan, so you don't understand. Even though you do,
I do appreciate it.
You wear the script A on your hat sometimes. Different script A, though.
A little bit different. But people don't know the difference a lot of times.
Which is funny.
Yes. It's weird to get a Roll Tide wearing a Braves hat. I wonder what... They need to have flip a coin. The winner gets to use that.
Who has more championships, Alabama or the Braves?
Let's not talk about that.
Who lost to the Phillies?
No. I know. That was a rough end of the season.
Yeah, I didn't mean to bring up painful memories. I apologize for that.
It rattled me. I didn't know what to do. All right, so Auburn retakes the series lead over Vanderbilt.
What an accomplishment.
23-22-1 now. Or maybe it's 22-21-1. Yeah, anyway, they're one up.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're winning the series now. Vanderbilt used to be apparently good, or Auburn was apparently really, really bad.
Or a combination.
Yes, probably. But the Auburn offense, they kind of jumped on them, and it feels a lot like the Mississippi State game. You kind of took control and just sat there, and let's just run the clock and win the game. So the bowl countdown is 1.
Right.
Do you see them getting in? Well,
they're going to get that win.
They're going to get the win.
They'll get the win against Western Kentucky.
No, it's New Mexico State.
New Mexico State. That's right. It was Western Kentucky last year.
Oh, was it?
It was.
They won that game.
Memory's so good, I forget.
New Mexico State, which is 7, and I think they're 7-3.
7-3. Yeah, New Mexico State's having an up year.
Yeah,
surprisingly.
And I get them confused with New Mexico every single time. So, did they get that win this week?
I ain't spoiling. I'm not going to spoil.
We'll go to that, and
I'm not going to
speak of that in a minute.
Yeah, we will.
But I mean, they really should have scored more points. It was one of those games. It was kind of a lot of mistakes, a lot of drops. But, I mean, they took care of business.
Right.
It was Vanderbilt.
You beat Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
You have to do just enough to beat Vanderbilt, and they did more than enough.
Yes. Now, I want to talk briefly about these two SEC teams I love so much, Florida and Texas A&M. They both lost. I think they're both sitting on 5 wins.
Right.
Did these teams even make a bowl game?
Texas A&M will. They have their cupcake game coming up in a couple of weeks. They'll wind up 6-6, maybe 7-5.
It's Abilene Christian.
It is. You're right, Abilene Christian. Florida, on the other hand, they get LSU and Florida State and somebody else in the SEC.
Was it Missouri?
Missouri, that's right. Florida's not making a bowl game.
Wow.
Florida's going 5-7. They'll fire Billy Napier, and they'll get Jamie Chadwell from Liberty, who will probably do the same thing at Florida because Florida's just that place you cannot succeed at.
Napier's supposed to have this great recruiting class come in, but, I mean, look at Jimbo Fisher. He has a great recruiting class in there.
But he'll make a bowl game.
They will
They
make
may
a bowl
get to
game.
go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Oh, boy. And they were projected to do well this year.
They were.
It's been a miserable season.
They went 5-7, and they start the season ranked because apparently everybody loves Jimbo.
Right. And then here they are in the same exact spot. If it wasn't for that buyout, he would be gone. Definitely. No doubt. Right, so let's jump into Zach's picks.
I've got 6 games, and I'm going to start with the most important, UAB at Navy. Because,
wow, really?
Yeah, you included that on the Out on the Limb, and so I just thought, well, you're always interested in UAB, South Alabama, Troy, some of our...
Jacksonville State.
Yeah, some of our mid-majors.
Had a good year.
Jacksonville State has, and it's a shame they won't go to a bowl game because
I don't understand that, but
rules.
yes.
But I will say there is a loophole. if there's not enough teams to fill out the required bowls, they'll call on those teams.
Really? James Madison?
James Madison might have a chance to get into a bowl game to replace somebody who's 5-7.
Interesting.
So things can get very chaotic, but that's another story for another day. So UAB Navy, who are you going to pick in this?
It's at Navy. Boy, it's hard to pick UAB on the road, but I think they're just a lot better than Navy. I mean, they won last week. Really impressive because they blew a 21-point lead. And then come back, tie it, and then go to overtime and win. I mean, no, last play of the game hit a field goal.
Yeah, you picked UAB. I thought you were crazy, and you got it right.
They came back. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe they blew it at first, and then the thing is you blow it and you still score. That was crazy. But I think UAB will win that game.
I think
Close.
I'm gonna chalk last week up to a fluke. I think that Navy's better than UAB, in my opinion. I think Navy's going to win that game.
It's a road game, so yeah.
It is. It's in Annapolis. And traveling to Maryland is strange. Why would you schedule this game? Why? It's a conference game.
Okay.
But
I didn't know that.
At least it's not a geographical conference. It's the American conference. So as
Could be
long as
anywhere.
it's in America, you qualify for that conference.
Could be in Hawaii.
Congratulations. Yes. Hawaii's in the Mountain West. We're getting off subject, but why is Hawaii in the Mountain West if they're not in the well, they have their own mountains, which are volcanoes, but they're not in the Rocky Mountains.
I don't know. Maybe they should be independent again.
I think that would work out because people want to schedule them. I would say.
I would love to. Yeah, Alabama played them twice back in the day. It's been a long time ago, but yeah.
It's going to be an easy win, and hey, you're going to go to Hawaii.
Did Vanderbilt beat Hawaii this year?
They did, 35-28,
one of
week
the
0
wins.
in a construction site, which Auburn had to play in last week.
It's a mess.
All right, next game, going to the SEC, Tennessee and Missouri.
Oof.
It's at Missouri. Tennessee is a slight favorite. The line's been up and down. So who do you see winning this?
Why would they be favored? What have they done to make you think they should be favored in that game?
Well, their losses are
Played
to
Alabama
Florida
close?
and Alabama. That's right. They played Alabama close. They had a lead at halftime at Bryant-Denny. That's definitely enough to get you favored.
And I think Tennessee. Yeah, I'm going to go Tennessee, but I don't feel good about it. Missouri's really good this year.
Missouri's good,
shockingly good.
But they played Georgia last week. They're going to be exhausted. Missouri's only chance, in my opinion, is that Tennessee is looking ahead to next week when they get their shot at Georgia, which is going to be an entirely different game. That's going to be an excellent game next week.
Who would think the East will be decided by Missouri and Tennessee at Georgia? Just a couple years ago, we would never said that.
That's right. You know, Missouri, when they first joined the SEC, they won the East. They took over. And,
twice. Yeah.
Right, and then they completely fell apart, and they're on their way up.
It's good to see them back.
Yeah, good for Missouri, even though they just don't fit into the SEC very well.
Not at all.
I mean, neither does Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
Vanderbilt's a Sun Belt team. Yes,
They're a very good baseball team.
All right, we're getting off subject here again.
Right.
We're going to take another step out west, Utah, Washington, because the Pac-12's got a game like this every week. Washington it's at home. Utah, they had that embarrassing loss a couple of weeks ago. They rebounded last week. Do they get their shot at Washington and pull the upset?
I wouldn't be surprised here just because I feel like Washington has a loss coming.
They do.
know?
I think so.
Something's missing at Washington. They just keep barely winning. Can they keep that going? Maybe. I still don't know how they beat Oregon. That was a fluke.
It was.
I'm calling that a fluke.
I agree. I think Oregon's a much better team than Washington.
Yes. But I'm going Washington.
So am I.
To continue it since it's at home.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't feel good about it because Washington, like you say, they just haven't been impressive since that win against Oregon. But neither is Utah.
Now, who was the quarterback that was injured early for Utah?
Cam Rising. He is
that
out
really
for the
hurt
season.
Him. That hurt.
He is going to be the poster child for people sitting out of bowl games because last year he played in the Rose Bowl, which did not matter towards playoffs or anything. He tears his ACL and he's missing this season. But they have a pig farmer in it backup, Bryson Barnes. Mm-hmm. They have a talented team. I just don't think they match up well, though. I got Washington in this one as well.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go to Ole Miss at Georgia. This game is going to decide the SEC East. Georgia has to win, and they're in. Ole Miss needs a win paired with an Alabama loss to get in contention for the West, which is probably not going to happen. No. We'll get into that
minuscule
a little later
chances.
as well. So, do you think Ole Miss has a chance in Athens?
Yes. But what Georgia are you going to get? I think you're going to get the ready for this Georgia, and that's bad news for everybody.
Yes.
If they get a Georgia team that's not ready, Ole Miss is good enough to beat them. Ole Miss is really good, except for Alabama game. They really, really looked great. Their offense is so good, but I mean, it's a good matchup. Ole Miss offense, Georgia defense, but I just think Georgia probably about 10 points, something like that.
I like what you're saying there. I'm going to go with that as well. Georgia's, it seems like since Brock Bowers got hurt, they've played better.
Yep.
It's ridiculous because he's the best player on that team, and now that he's hurt, they've been dominating for the most part. Last week against Missouri, they only win by 9, but they're playing a good Missouri team. Mm-hmm. So I think Georgia's going to win this 15, 14 points, something in that area. Give me the Bulldogs in this one.
What's crazy is it's Auburn. Auburn almost.
That's
I don't know if they should have beat Georgia or could have beat Georgia, but they were in the game late.
They had a chance. It took a late Georgia touchdown.
This is not the same Georgia team. It doesn't seem like right now.
All right, we're going to go to Lexington next. Alabama at Kentucky. We both already agree that Alabama's going to win the game, right? So, if let's say Kentucky were to pull off an upset, what would need to happen?
Milroe having a terrible game.
Basically, what he did
maybe
against
a couple
Texas.
interceptions. Yeah, exactly. And Kentucky'd have to play out of his really, really no mistakes. And it's possible, but it's a weird matchup. They don't play Kentucky. It's kind of like Ole Miss, Georgia.
Right.
It's a game you don't see much. This is also a game you don't see much.
It's one of those matchups that, in a few years, people are going to forget there ever were divisions in the SEC. Yep. And this is going to be an every other year matchup. Right, and people are going to get used to it. The matchup's going to have history. I think Alabama's outscored Kentucky 115-17 in their last 3 meetings.
That is what I'm predicting the score to be.
I like that.
115-17.
You think the Alabama defense allows 17?
That would be. Oh, Saban would be upset. But I probably, if they beat LSU by a couple touchdowns, they'll probably beat Kentucky by 3, something like that.
3 touchdowns?
3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns. Okay, making sure.
Not 3 points.
How many times does Milroe run for a touchdown?
He will have 2 rushing touchdowns.
Does he play the whole game?
Yes.
Okay. Because
you don't put up those numbers.
No. That's right. It's what it's boiling down to, and this is just my opinion. If Alabama plays average against Kentucky, Alabama's only going to have 2 blowout wins on the season: Middle Tennessee and Chattanooga in a couple of next week.
Oh, has that even happened yet? Wow. And take that, Chattanooga.
Yeah, right? Take that. I don't trust Chattanooga. I don't trust them. Well, they're good. They're decent for FCS, but they don't have a chance next week.
Samford level.
Level. Well, Samford's better, I think. Samford's having a down year.
And they really are.
Yeah, we're getting off subject,
yeah, exactly.
but I do
we
love
like doing
Samford.
That.
We do. Yeah, we're chasing rabbits. But back on the farm, final game, Auburn at Arkansas. Arkansas, they were 2-6. They beat Florida last week, and now they've got a legitimate shot at winning out and making a bowl game, maybe. Wow. Auburn is 5-4, unimpressive, kind of slogged through the first 9 games.
Looked better the last 2, but boy, that's a tough game. Auburn on the road has been really bad, except for Vanderbilt.
Right.
Which, the stadium was in traction, so they didn't even where they're playing. Arkansas is a tough place to play. I'll probably go Arkansas on that.
I'm going to have to.
But it's going to be close.
It's going to be a really close game. It's going to be
Arkansas is a lot better than their record. First
they
of
are
all, start with that. They've had so many close losses this year.
And also, I'll say this too: they probably are going to be playing for their coach because they love Coach Pittman, Sam Pittman at Arkansas. But if they were to have gone, 4-8, 3-9 this season, he was probably getting shown the door. But now I think that they're going to snap into gear, finish 5-7, maybe even 6-6, and make a bowl game. And he saves his job. So I've got Arkansas as well, and that rounds out Zach's picks.
I hope Arkansas plays like they did against Mississippi State. That's my hope. Then Auburn can win. Right. 7-3?
Yes.
Which was crazy because they were coming off that Bama game, though.
Right, it
tough
must have
loss.
taken everything out of them.
But I think they won last week because of Florida's ridiculous black uniforms.
Yeah, it was. When you go black
terrible.
Out, you should have learned from Mark Richt.
You don't do that.
You should have learned from Georgia trying to put on black uniforms against Alabama, and it didn't work out well. You don't go black out.
Can you imagine Alabama wearing black uniforms? People would freak out.
They would. Hey, remember earlier in the season, Miami wore their blackout uniforms against Georgia Tech, and how'd that work out for them?
Oh, one of the craziest games of the year. Yeah, it's a bad look when it's not even your color.
Right. I mean, I can see Georgia doing it because black is kind of their color.
Yeah, Georgia, that makes sense.
There are teams that could do it.
There's no black in Florida.
No.
It's orange and blue.
Remember when they had that green out, the asparagus-looking uniforms a few years ago?
Yep.
They're trying their best to imitate Oregon. It's not going to work.
Oregon changes theirs every game. All right, so that'll wrap us up. We do want to encourage people to go and watch the Bevill State basketball team, which is in action. New coach.
Right.
They're going to be playing at Songer Gym a lot this year. That's at the old Walker High School campus. Nice gym. They fixed
Very
it up,
nice.
got a new floor. So, yeah, get out and watch Bevill State. We appreciate them for sponsoring the show. And we want to thank Jake for producing. And like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Bevill State
is your community college.
for
convenient and affordable academic transfer options.
Rewarding health science programs. High wage, high demand career tech training.
Your story starts at Bevill State.